Hello, I hope you're doing great today. Today we are going to see a small example on how to convert a Blazor Server application to a Blazor WebAssembly application. There are some times where you may want to do this in order to increase your performance and reducing a lot of networking traffic required by Blazor Server, right? With Blazor WebAssembly, you are effectively executing most of your application in the client side in the browser, and you will only be getting and posting data usually with HTTP connections, right? So in terms of performance, WebAssembly is actually many times better, but it all depends on the kind of system you are doing, right? Okay, before I continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and subscribe to the channel, share the videos, like them, visit the links in the description, and there are a couple of things that you can buy from there. There are links to some books that I've published, and there are some links also to buy my coffee if you want to support the channel and the videos. Okay, so let's start. So here we have a small Blazor server application, and this is just the default template. You will see that here we have the startup, the program, right, the pages, and the host CS HTML, um, CS HTML, right? And if I execute it, this will execute just as any normal Blazor server application, right? So let's give it some time for it to load, and this is the default template, and let's just get the data. Um, this is a little bit different to WebAssembly, that since it is executing on the server and it doesn't have to invoke or to do HTTP calls to invoke controllers on an API, most of the data is retrieved by using services type classes, right? So you see that here they have like a weather forecast service, and it returns the data, and the service is injected or configured in the startup CS as a singleton, right? Now, what are the things that make this a Blazor server? We will see the difference in a second. I am going to create another application in here that is going to be called, actually, I'm going to call it Blazor Client. Blazor, and this is going to be a WebAssembly, right? Blazor Client. Okay. And yeah, and I am not going to select the ASP.NET Core hosted. So there will be a couple of differences, right? I am going to have the Blazor server on the left side of the screen, and I'm going to have Blazor WebAssembly in the right side of the screen. Actually, first we'll open the program, which the program CS are usually the classes that start the application. Let me see if I can do it side by side. Yes, I should be able to do it. 1 second. Remove a split. Okay. So this is the server on the left side, and this is the client in the. This is the Blazor Server application, and this is the Blazor Webassembly application that is not configured to be hosted, right? Or .NET Core hosted. You will see that the main is similar, except that here we are using a host builder, and in Blazor WebAssembly we are using a WebAssembly host builder. In Blazor WebAssembly, since we are required to do, or since we usually invoke APIs, this is configured the HTTP client with the base address, indicating the base URL where all of your APIs will be are hosted. Now you see that here we also have use a startup in both. We have a startup in here, use a startup, right? And here we actually do not have it. Now this is in the client side, right? What else do we have? The startup we will not see it yet, but we will see some difference in a second. Okay, so what else do we have in here? You will see that in our API, we have it configured like we add the Razor pages, and we add the server-side Blazor in our Blazor server application, right? This is the thing that adds all of the server-side Blazor configuration, right? But you will also see it, and here we have this map fallback to page. So basically this is configuring the system to go to the host page when it doesn't find like any by default, let's say, right? And then it will load the host page, which have starting index HTML type page, right? And you will see that in here it invokes the component type of application. It sets the render mode, and the application is defined in here. It has the configuration of where it will start and which layout it will use, right? And then we know that it will use this layout, then we'll have like the menu and the content and all that, and it will load the index or the page that actually have the default route, right? So that's in the case of Blazor Server. Now I am actually going to delete this client, and I am going to create another one, but this now I will create it being .NET Core hosted so we can see some of the differences in the server side. Blazor WebAssembly app. Blazor wasn't hosted. Okay. ASP.NET Core hosted. And it will create 3 new projects. So you see that here we have Blazor Wasm hosted client, Blazor Wasm hosted server, and Blazor Wasm hosted share. So if we go to the startup CS on both projects, on the default Blazor server that we created, and on the server that was created when I created a WebAssembly, a Blazor WebAssembly app with .NET Core hosted API, we will see that there are a couple of differences. This is the one from wasn't hosted. I'll put it in here. So this is the default Blazor server, and this is the hosted APIs for Blazor WebAssembly. So you will see that in the case of the hosted APIs, we do not add server-side Blazor because we are not using server-side in this case. And the default template basically just adds this, right? Then we are not injecting services in this case, but in case that we need it, we will inject all of the services that we need. That part doesn't really change that much, but we will be using controllers instead of services. At least our main execution point will be routes, usually within controllers, and we can invoke services from our controllers if we want. Then in the configure, you will see that for the Blazor Web Assembly, we use Blazor framework files, and it adds the Blazor WebAssembly Blaze framework files from the root and the default route, right? Then you will see that our use endpoints change a little bit in the Blazor WebAssembly app, at least in the server side. And this time we will have to map the Razor pages. Well, we map the Razor pages, we map the controllers, and we map the fallback to a file called index.html. And the index.html is the index file, which is defined in the client project www index.html. Now, how it does find the file and everything, the server side in the default configuration for Blazor WebAssembly with .NET Core hosted APIs, the server project actually has a reference to the client project. You see here it is. So it notes all of the types and everything that is in that project. And the server side or the server project is actually the main execution point or the startup project when you are running a Blazor WebAssembly application with .NET Core hosted API. Okay, so comparing our clients. I actually deleted the other one, so it will not change that much. But now, let's see. I want this to become a Blazor WebAssembly application, right? Currently is a Blazor server application. So first, I need to go to program.cs, right? And now I have to go to sorry, if I want this to be the server and I want to have it something like this, I will have to create the other project, the client, and configure this to be the server. So the thing that I will have to do is first I have to go to the program.cs. This one will actually keep the stay the same. We go to the startup and we will have to do a couple of things. We'll have to remove this, we'll remove the weather service if we do not need it, right? Then the one thing that we will have to do in here, as we saw, app use Blazor framework, but for that we actually need to add a NuGet package, I believe, the Microsoft.ASP, this one, Microsoft.ASP.NET Core Components Web Assembly. So in our Blazor APIs, we will have to add a NuGet package. will add this one. Okay, 506. Okay, so now we go to startup.cs, and yeah, Blazor framework files, we add them, right? Then we do not need this nor this. We'll use endpoints dot map controllers, endpoints dot map fallback page, and we will use index.html. Now let's see this other one. Yeah, index.html, and yeah, we need to add the eraser pages in case we want to use eraser pages. Endpoint.map eraser pages. Okay, and then we want to also add the add use Webassembly debugging when we are debugging. One more thing that you also have to do is remove the host CSHTML the CSHTML page, right? And then we need to add the reference to the WebAssembly project, which is in this case this one, the client, right? And I believe we can already execute this one. Let's see if we get any errors or if I'm adding something. Okay, I missed something. I missed doing something. So here's the thing. This was a Blazor server project, and now I am configuring this to just be the API that is going to reference the client project, and this be the startup project, right? But currently I have a www.root folder in both projects. I need to remove it from the server project because the www.root should only exist in the client project. So I'll remove that one, and I should be able to try again. Build succeeded, and the application will start. Let's see if it loads. I am missing something else. It says index.html is not valid page name. Okay, here's the thing with that. The one more thing that we need to do is make sure that the launch settings are actually launching the applications in the same port. So my server, this one is the API, and yeah, I'll configure it so it executes in the same project. Remember that since they are the same application, this should not be a problem at all. And index.html is not a valid page name. Let's see, there's something I may be missing. So this is referencing the client project. Client project has the index.html, and it's using static files, it's using routing, and both should be actually on the same port, 44377. Oh, I didn't save it. Let's see. don't think that was, let me verify it. I don't think it had a slash. Index.html, Blazor pages, controllers, fallback, issues endpoints, is HTS, Blazor framework files, controllers with view, Blazor pages. Okay. And controllers with views, Blazor pages should not really matter actually. But let's see. Okay, let's compile. This is the startup project. We are making sure that this is using the client project. In the client project we have the www root, right? We are using the IIS Express 44377. And yeah. So I changed the port. They have, you need to make sure that they are both the same, right? See that this is the original, the server that I created with the default template, and you see that those actually have 44377 in here, and well, actually I did modify that one, I think. 44377 in here, and yeah. So you basically need to make sure that your ports are the same, right? So that when you execute the application, uh, the client is able to find the API. Also, in your Blazor WebAssembly, you need to make sure that the index.html is importing this script from the framework. Underscore framework slash blazor.webassembly.js, because that's the script that will import your Blazor WebAssembly runtime. And the other thing that you need to have in your Blazor WebAssembly application is a div with some ID, where its name is going to be the thing that you are going to use in here, in the builder.rootcomponents.add, using the type of the view that's going to be the main application view, or the one that defines the router, and the ID where your application is going to be rendered, right? And that's basically the way in which you can convert your applications to from a Blazor server to a Blazor WebAssembly application. You can either convert your Blazor server to just a Blazor WebAssembly, or you can convert your Blazor server to a Blazor WebAssembly with .NET Core hosted APIs. The latter is better because you will have your APIs defined in a server, right? You can host it pretty much wherever you need it. You can host both on the same server, right? But they will be a little bit separated, right? And um, otherwise, you may only be able to do like a static web applications. You are still going to be able to do HTTP calls and things like that, right? But you will not be able to use a lot of server-side stuff from your Blazor WebAssembly. So it's better to invoke APIs from your Blazor WebAssembly, right? And endpoints, I mean, and from your endpoints that are in a .NET Core host API, you will invoke your additional requests. Also, um, remember that your Blazor WebAssembly part is executed on your browser, right? So when you are executing code in your browser, you are taking the client computer resources, memory, CPU, things like that, right? So there is a lot of processing that it may not be wise to execute on your client side, right? But that's kind of how it works. And please let me know if you have any doubts. And if you have used Blazor Server and Blazor WebAssembly, please let us know how have you been using them, right? And the advantages and disadvantages that you have found for any of those. If you want to see some projects already created in Blazor, you can see my repository. It's my GitHub repositories. They are in the video description, and they are usually prefixed with Blazor, right? And you can find a couple of repositories. There is Blazor Restaurant. There is another. There are a couple of Blazor projects, Blazor Restaurant, some Blazor components, some Blazor Azure maps. Um, there is Blazor Video Insights. There is um, one more that we are creating that's named Fair Play 2 that is still in the works, but you will be able to see it working pretty soon actually. Please remember to share the video, like the videos, invite more people to subscribe to the channel so we can keep making more videos, right? Thank you very much and have a great day.